All right, everybody. It's Zach at NewtoMedia. I've got my brother here. It's the cock fielding questions. And I want to show off, first of all, this awesome intro music that Will Blaylock put together for us. Hopefully you can hear it. And, oh, that's the background, not the background music. I'm sorry. What an amateur.
Call the car. Call Joseph T. Carfield and walk away. Free.
I hope you get on your end, brother.
I can hear it. I can hear it. It started. I swear it sounds like Soundgarden.
Well, I know it doesn't come in on the recording. Maybe your editing team can sub it in.
Yeah. No, exactly. That's one thing I'm learning all the time with this. I want to go back to the beginning of the recording. I want to do that. That's my favorite part. If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. That was so good. Oh man.
Call the car. Call Joey T. C-O-C-K. Don't be scared. Call Joey T.
All right. We'll have that when we push this out. I think we're going to have to push out the intro music, outro music as a separate link so that people can take full advantage of that awesomeness. I think Blaylock's going to have to retire from locking loans to making bones with music. So what's been going on, man?
Not much. Like I said, just finishing up a long week of dumb crook stuff. I wish I could talk about my clients because, good Lord, do they provide me a lot of content. But unfortunately, without their permission, I have to do that ethical thing and not disclose their cases.
Okay. Okay.
So we have to go to the internet for our other dumb crook news.
Yeah.
Not represent.
And we found a few this week. I would say the crooks were not as stupid as they normally are this past week because we only had a few that were really good. But I think they've heard, I think, about the chance that they might go on the show. So I think they've been a little bit more careful this week.
We're improving lives. We're making
that's right. We're making the country more safe, and hopefully saving the taxpayers some money from reducing some of these law enforcement expenses. Do you want to touch on a dumb crook story?
All right, I'm going to start off with what I would call the Friday dumb crook news, and this is after one of the great movies that me and Zach grew up with, and that was Friday with Ice Cube. My first story headline is "Robbery Foiled by Indifference at Atlanta Nail Salon." And just like something straight out of the movie Friday, this young African American man goes into a nail salon and goes, "Everybody, give me your jewels and your money. Put your hands up." And of course, everybody in the nail salon just ignores him and doesn't do anything. He kind of looks at him like, "Come on, man, really?" You know?
Yeah. It's like
Giselle, you know, like in the beginning of Friday when he's like, you know, "Can I settle for
Yep.
Yeah, whatever. Settle for a box of chocolate and I don't know."
Yeah, I'll settle out of court right now for $20.40.
Yep. So it says he got released by Atlanta police. Shows the man his hand in a bag, enter a nail salon, and started shouting, "Everybody, get down! Get down! Give me all your money!" The customers looked unimpressed. They stared at him and barely moved or changed their expressions. One customer eventually does stand up and raise her hands. When he confronts her directly, instead of handing over money, she slowly backs out the door. Eventually, the robber realizes he's not getting anywhere with this crowd, stunned that trying to rob people armed with only sheer bravado does not work. He takes a moment to look around, then turns and walks out the door.
What do you do? All right, here's a question. Mr. Criminal Defense Attorney. If a criminal, well, I guess you can have attempted crime without it happening.
That would fall under the attempted category.
Yes, okay. But there are no damages. Nobody was hurt. No money was taken.
Here's one that people probably don't know about. I guess I can drop some legal knowledge.
Do it.
If you go in with a bag and you have no gun, but you act like there's a gun, then yes, they can charge you with armed robbery and possibly other firearm related charges, even though you don't have a firearm.
Dang.
A firearm, probably not, but armed robbery, yes, in most states they probably can charge you with armed robbery because that's more about what the victims believe or could have believed you had at the time. So anyway, there you go. Boring legal.
No, that's good. I just started while you were saying that. I was thinking, what if somebody has no arms and they attempt a robbery? Is it still an armed robbery? Or if they only have one arm?
Simply exercising his Second Amendment right to bear arms, even though he wouldn't have any. Maybe with his feet.
Oh my gosh. I'm thinking of like Monty Python's, oh, it's merely a flesh wound. Get over here, you ninny. That's cool. All right, give me some more dumb criminal news.
Okay, and this is what we talked about, and this kind of goes hand in hand with the next story, and that is drunk driver arrested after posting Facebook videos of himself behind the wheel while drinking intoxicated. Again, never a good idea to throw it out there on live Facebook that you were drinking and driving.
Yeah.
Because surprisingly, Facebook does save that video, and I think they can play it back for people.
Yep.
And then it has Venice burglar accidentally takes selfie with the victim's iPhone. That would be a hard thing for the defense to overcome. When asked by the prosecutor, why is your selfie on the phone that you claim you did not steal?
Yep. Florida man, always making an appearance. I'm assuming that's Venice, Florida.
Florida does normally dominate our weekly podcast, Zach.
Yeah. I have a daughter who's getting ready to go to law school, and she's trying to decide between a school in Georgia and a school in Florida. Well, no, I guess there's one school in Arizona she's thinking about, but I think it's really coming down to Georgia or Florida. I'm thinking if she's criminal defense, it's Florida's going to give her lots of job security.
I would tell her to take the Georgia bar because Florida has reciprocity laws that are a whole lot better than Georgia. Georgia has no reciprocity last I checked for anybody, which ironically, like a Supreme Court Justice of the United States could create law that is the law of the land. And if he retired from the bench and tried to go become an attorney in Georgia, he would have to take the bar exam.
Right.
Which
Wow.
is crazy.
Yeah. Right.
That is the case.
That is nice. And actually, I have heard from attorneys in Georgia that Florida is not great to work with either.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, I think attorneys here have to take the bar down there
Yeah.
to
Well,
do much.
in North Carolina, I can get reciprocity in North Carolina, but North Carolina only requires that I have 85% of my business in North Carolina. So essentially, in order for me to start practicing law there, I have to give up all law everywhere else, which is,
Yeah. Right.
basically saying, yeah, you got to take the bar exam. So
I think there should be I don't know if many states do this. I think there should be like a de minimis, like you can do, one or two cases or
Yeah.
something like that.
yeah, there is. Most states allow you to come in for one case, but as far as taking business from, and to be honest, the bar for each state is really not about your qualifications as much as it's about the regulation of the industry.
Yeah.
Florida doesn't care how smart you are. They don't really give a rip if you have the intelligence to pass the bar. It's more about how do we limit the amount of people that can come to our state and practice law.
Yep.
They realistically don't want people to come there to practice law because it takes business away from other lawyers. So a lot of people think the bar exam or each state's bar has to do with your intelligence, and that's really not the case. A lot of times, bar exam results are not who passed or failed, but how many spots do we have available or we're willing to have available each year. So,
Yep. Well, that's interesting. Speaking of spots available, that's a great point. Is the state of Virginia needing more attorneys? I mean, I know people joke about how there's so many attorneys and this and that, but we would be in a mess if we had a shortage.
well, no. Well, what I'm hearing lately is that artificial intelligence is dominating, is taking up a lot of jobs from lawyers, particularly young lawyers out of law school, because
Yeah, they would do research and such.
yeah, all the guys that used to do research are now being replaced by computers.
Yep.
And they're talking about how AI is going to decimate the white collar jobs going forward. And that's why ideally NVIDIA, which is a stock that me and you both believe in, is going to continue to blow up.
I really believe it. I'm not, I'm a financial planner. I'm securities licensed, but I'm not promoting a specific security when I say this. I believe that there is such an opportunity that many companies are going to be covered up in that space. I think that right now, NVIDIA is the only company that seems to be able to create chips of that complexity. But I think even once there are one or two more companies that are strong in that space, I still think there is tons of opportunity. There's so much. I know some people are really big on Bitcoin, and I even believe it's going to keep going up. That's just not something I'm going to be a big part of, because I like to invest in things that have earnings or at least yield of some sort. And I just don't see how the opportunity in some other areas comes close to the opportunity in AI. There's so much. Yeah. It's almost like when the internet started, it didn't change that we need oxygen to live. It didn't change, it doesn't change, the fundamentals of living and some of the other important things, but it just changes how we live. It changes how we process information. It changes the way we use tools. I think, as big as the internet.
Well, you can either pay a young associate in Manhattan $400,000 a year,
Hmm.
or you can have AI do that job for virtually
Yeah,
zero. So
exactly. Yeah,
companies that are going to allow that type of work to be done. And
right.
right now, we're early on in NVIDIA. Again, I know Zach's not pushing it. I'm not a securities person. I'm not asking you to buy or sell
You can
anything.
say whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. And so there's no,
Yeah.
no issue. I just have, there are only certain things I'm allowed to say.
Its price earnings or PE ratio is 43 right now. And
Right.
nobody's doing what everybody's going to be doing in probably 3 years. So,
Yeah. And with a growth rate, of still, 70 to 100% plus on many of their different channels of business. So usually when you're looking at a stock that has growth rates like that and is already massively profitable, usually when a company has, or I'll say, oftentimes when a company has growth rates like that, it's because they have a product that is disruptive or innovative or whatever you want to call it, but it's still not profitable. Right?
yeah.
Here you've got a company that is just making money hand over fist and has that kind of growth rate. So if it has a 40 something PE on it this year, you're probably looking at 30 something PE on next year, what they call forward PE, and it's a no-brainer. So it's I'm not speaking about any specific company, but when you have a growth rate like that and you have great cash flow and you're extremely profitable, it's pretty special.
Yeah, when their biggest problem is you can't put out enough product.
That's it. Yeah. When your biggest problem is capacity and your ability to just fill all the orders, that's a really good problem.
Yeah. All right, back to dumb crook news.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else do we have? And
There were a few others. There were like
Venice,
3 or 4 that were pretty solid.
Yeah, Venice was Los Angeles, by the way. It was not Venice, Florida. So.
Oh, Venice Beach. Okay, I know somebody in Venice Beach. One of our guests, one of our realtor guests was in Venice Beach. That's cool.
Let's see. What else do we have? We might have done this one before. The purse snatching suspect drops his wallet and ID at the scene.
Yeah, that's I don't know if we want to go out on a limb and give dumb crook advice, but I think not having your identification with you is a good start.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was pretty good. I think, did we talk about the selfie on stolen iPad?
Yes, that was the Facebook and selfie on the iPad. Stolen. Although I think I said stolen iPhone, but yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. There are a couple that are pretty similar stories here. Okay. Well, I don't know if it's good news or bad news. Probably bad news for content and traffic. But the dumb crooks were not as dumb this week, so we're gonna give them credit. They
they're listening. They're obviously big fans of NewtoMedia.
They're big fans of the show, and I think. One other just note, and this is as a producer of the show.
Wait. What you're going to say? You need to get a hardware store to start advertising for all of the burglar tools.
Yes, we're going to start getting sponsorships, right? for chain cutters, padlock cutters.
Exactly.
That would be great. Oh man, that would be awesome. Now, what I was going to say was, we need to try to get on the STFU criminal defense lawyers down in Florida that I was sending you some notes from this week. I think those guys look well, first of all, they're running great social. They have great content, and they have some, but they also were echoing some of the things that you had said before. And I'll let you speak to that. But that thing that they put on their hat, do you want to speak to that for a second?
The thing you put on your hat. Okay, so all right, refresh my memory on that.
The STFU stands, well, maybe you don't want to say one of the words, but
Yeah.
when you're dealing with the police.
Oh yeah, yeah. And it's hard because I've talked to clients in the past and I've explained to them, anytime you are ever being questioned by the police, you need to never say a word. And they will inevitably go out and be in a situation where they think they're innocent, they believe they're innocent, even after they've had conversations with me about that specific subject, and they will still speak to the police.
And say something that incriminates them. Yes.
I had a client. I've got one of my bigger cases now. I won't go into names of the case or anything like that, but not only did he decide to speak with the police, he decided to speak with the police after they read him Miranda, which, you know,
yeah.
like I told him, the bells aren't going off when you're sitting down with a police officer, and they already should be. But when you hear you have the right to remain silent and you still choose to talk,
yep.
You were making my job very, very difficult.
Absolutely. Yeah. And these guys, they had a couple phrases that really resonated with me, and I'm gonna give them proper. I'm gonna try to make sure I give them proper credit, maybe in the links below. But the STFU criminal defense attorneys made a point to say that if you're at a checkpoint or you get pulled over or whatever, when a police officer asks you questions about, have you done this? Have you been here? Where have you been? They had a very simple answer. I'm not talking about my day. You know, you don't need to throw in, expletives or do things in a disrespectful way.
Right.
But you're not required to answer those questions. You can simply state that you're not going to talk to them about your day. You answer the thing.
You have to get out of the vehicle. If they tell you to get out of the vehicle, in almost every state, you normally have to provide ID. And even if you don't have to provide ID, you give it to them, and your attorney can argue that it was unconstitutional or that they violated your rights later. Just get out of the vehicle, give them your ID, and if they ask you questions about where you're going or where you're going to, you can say, I'm not going to help you prosecute me. You can just put up a high five, and hopefully they don't high five you, and you just say, which hopefully they will understand as I plead the fifth.
Right.
Or you simply say what the guys down in Florida say, which is, I'm not going to talk about my day. But it all comes down to, I'm not going to help you prosecute me.
Right.
And, that's really what's now. If you're in a DUI spot and you think you've been drinking, sometimes it's best not just to do this, because if you open your mouth, even if you haven't drank, they will say, "Well, I smelled has smelled alcohol on his person," which is just the dumbest saying ever. I don't know why they don't in court now say he smelled like alcohol, but those are magic words, apparently.
Right. So, are you saying that just holding up your hand means you're taking the fifth?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. These are the types of things that you tune into.
I've seen some attorneys have people with little signs or postcards that they put up to the window, like, I'm not answering questions. I plead the fifth. Here is my license and registration. Am I free to leave?
I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. These are the reasons that you tune into the cop fielding questions. I'm trying to think. They also had said that they typically had 25 words that they share with clients or prospective clients, and they added 4 words to them, which we will share if you click the links below. So we're going to share some of that great information from the SCFU attorneys, which I believe are in Florida. And we will also, of course, share the links to tune into Joe's page. And you can tune into any of our service professionals by scanning the QR code above. It's great stuff, brother.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
Okay. Have a great trip to the beach.
Yep. Well, we will continue to fight crime together and keep
All right.
the drugs off the mean streets.
That's right. We're making progress already, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.